Thank you. So, hello everyone. I'm here to talk about full abstraction for the quantum lambda calculus. And I will start by explaining you what is the quantum computation we are looking at. The paradigm we're considering is a classical control flow and some quantum data type on top of it. And we have access to some primitive to deal with that quantum data type. We have first the creation, which take some classical data and initialize some quantum data from it. We have the measure that takes some quantum data, destroy it, and probabilistically output true or false depending on the content of the quantum data. And we have a lot of operation we call unitary operation, which allow to create quantum superposition and quantum entanglement. Unfortunately, those unitary operations are very limited in the meaning that you can never create copy of quantum data. That's not something which is physically possible to duplicate quantum data. As such, any programming language which will have to handle quantum data has to have linearity as part of its feature. So it has to have data type that can be used at most once. So here we study the quantum lambda calculus, which as a callable value language, where we have some function that we wrote like that to say that the function that can be used only once. But of course, since we also want to have some expressivity, we will have replicable function, which are functions that can be used multiple times. We will have also recursion. We will have a lot of classical structure you will expect from a programming language, so sequence, coproduct, and pattern matching, which are just the generalization of Boolean and if then else. Pairs, list, and of course, quantum data type with the three primitives I've described in previous slide. What appear in red on this slide are the part of the language that are actually important because that's the part that are difficult to model together. And talking about model, in this talk we will focus on two models. One model from Pagani, Selinger, Valéron, which we will call the quantum relational model, and one model from us last year, which we call the quantum game model. But what is a model? Me, I'm working on denotational semantics. So for me, building a model is a three-step operation where the first step is to actually find a mathematical description of your quantum effect. I want a mathematical word where I can talk about quantum computation. The second step is to describe for everything of your language, so syntax, what does it correspond inside our semantic world. One way of doing it is to every type you associate a set of all possible behavior you allow within this type, and for every term or program, you associate the specific behavior of this term or program. And lastly, the last of these three steps, but probably the most important one, we want to recover some information from our semantics that we can use outside of our semantics. And for that, we have to prove that our model, our semantics, is well behaved. An example of property we could ask is adequacy. Adequacy is saying that if you have two programs that have exactly the same semantics, then that means that those two programs are doing the same thing. They are undistinguishable. Whatever the input, the context under which you put them, they will be observationally the same. A stronger property is what we call full abstraction, and full abstraction is when you have an if and only if there, which means that your model is exactly as precise as you want it to be. And that's the gold standard for denotational semantics. Full abstraction for quantum computation is not new. That's not a new problem. And there was already some result for a fragment of the quantum lambda calculus which did not have replicable function, list, or recursion. So a kind of finitary fragment of the quantum lambda calculus. And this paper that we're presenting here proves that both models, which are the quantum relational model and the quantum game model, are fully abstract for the full lambda calculus with functions that you can use multiple times, list, and recursion. But so now I want to quickly present you, give you a quick overview of what are those two models, the relational model and the game model. And before presenting you what they look like in the quantum case, I will present you what they look like when you don't have any quantum information. So the idea behind the relational model is that to every type, you associate a web of possibility. So the unit type will have only one possibility, which is do nothing. The Boolean type will have two possibilities, which is being true, false. If you have a pair, you will have the pair of all possibility. And if you have a function, you will have the pair of all possible input-outputs. For example, if you take a function from Boolean to a pair unit Boolean, you will have 4 points in the web, which correspond to all the possible input-output that you can make. This is for a type. And when you have a term or a program, you will just select some of the points of the web that describe your program. So for example, this term, which is doing a negation, will have those 2 points of the web where if in the input is false, you output skip true. If the input is true, you output skip false. And this is the relational model in a nutshell. When you have a game model, you will add on top of all those web, you will add a kind of temporality that represents the execution of your term. So the same type here, which are just 4 points, will be represented by this tree-like structure. We're in callback value. So when we have a function, the way a function behaves in callback value is it say, I am a function, I'm waiting for an argument. So this is represented by what we call a move. That's a player move. That's an information which is given us by the term or the program. So that we put a plus to say that's something which is given by the program. Then the function is waiting for an argument. So the user of this function or the context can input false or true to this function. So this is something which comes from the exterior of the term. So that's a negative move. And you cannot do both at the same time. You can only put one input in your function. So we put this wiggly line that says that we have a conflict between those two possibilities. And after that, the term will be able to output either skip false or skip true. So yet again, not both. And that's an information that comes from your program. So that's a positive. Something that you can see with this tree-like structure, if you look at complete execution or what we call complete configuration, they exactly correspond to web of the type. For each point of the web from the relational model, you have a complete execution here. What changed in the game model is that we have also a representation of partial execution when the computation is not yet finished. On the strategy level, you will do the same thing and for the relational model. You will select some behavior from the game. So this will be the strategy when you have the negation. When the input is false, you will put skip true. When the input is true, you put skip false. And yet again, each complete configuration corresponds to a point of the relational model. So this is as a very coarse approximation what those two models look like. When we have quantum, we will want to add some quantum information on this representation. And to explain you how it works, I will first stop at probabilistic model. So now I assume that I have a coin in my language. I'm able to flip coin, fair coin, which have probability half for each. And what we will do in the probabilistic relational model is that instead of saying this point of the web is part of the term and this point of the web is not part of the term, we will say this point of the web is part of the web with probability 1. This part of the web is part of the web with probability 0. That one is part with probability half. So we will put weight to every point of the web of our type. So this will be the representation of this term. False false arise with probability half, false true with probability half, etc. And at the game level, we will do the same thing. We will put some probabilities to our configuration. And the main difference is that we'll also put probabilities to all intermediate configuration because the game model also cares about intermediate step for computation. So now what I will want is that this is when we have just probabilities. What happens when we have some quantum computation? Because we can't just put some probabilities that won't be enough. But for that, I need to explain how do we represent quantum computation. We use what is called the mixed state representation. And for that, that means that when you have n quantum bits, it will be represented by a positive matrix of size 2 to the n times 2 to the n. So simple example, if you have 1 quantum bit, that has not yet any quantum superposition. You just created it. It will be represented by this diagonal matrix with one coefficient, which is the probability of your quantum bit being false if you measure it, and one coefficient, which is the probability of your quantum bit being true if you measure it. If you have multiple fresh quantum bits, you will have all the probability of correlation, so false, 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 true, true, false, true, true. And when you have quantum correlation, you will just use those non-diagonal coefficients. So those non-diagonal coefficients will be complex numbers that say how much quantum superposition and quantum entanglement you have. So this is the representation of a pair of quantum bits that we call entangled. So if you measure them, both of them, you will obtain false, false, or true, true, both with probability half. But this is not just a classical correlation. This is a quantum correlation. This is a quantum entanglement. And this is represented by those two complex coefficients which are there. So now we have a representation for our quantum data. So I can come back to this slide where we have the probabilistic semantics. And I will just replace my term. Now I add some quantum effect. In my term, I have a creation, and it's outputting a quantum bit. So what I will want to do is just to replace those probabilities by matrice. I want to just to replace probability by quantum state. Unfortunately, I have to kind of say, but what size of matrices? Can I put some arbitrary big matrices? The good answer is to change the interpretation of your type. So that now your type comes with an annotation that states for each point of the web, how many quantum bits you have at this point of the web. So here we have for each point of the web, we have one quantum bit. And then when you have the number of quantum bits, you just have to put a positive matrix of the adequate size. So for one quantum bit, it will be a 2-2 matrix. And this is for the relational model. And we will essentially do the same thing for game. So now on games, we will also add an annotation that states how many quantum bits we have at each configuration. And we will, and on strategy, we will put a matrix which will state how many, which will be a matrix of the adequate size. So, for example, for this term, at the beginning, if you look at our term, at the beginning we have a function, there is not yet any quantum information. So at the game level, we'll say that we have no quantum bit yet. We put a 1-1 matrix. Since that a 1-1 matrix is simply a scalar, so here a probability. And this will happen with probability 1, because whenever you have a lambda abstraction, your lambda abstraction will never diverge before you can evaluate it. So with probability 1. Then there are some input, not yet any quantum information. And on the output, now we have a quantum bit. So on the game, we will signal that now we have a quantum bit at this moment. And we will put a probability, we will put a matrix there that corresponds to the quantum effect. And what you can see is that yet again, if you look at a complete configuration, it will correspond to a point of the web. And the annotation we put on the relational model is exactly the same as the one that we're putting on the quantum game model. So this relationship between the two, it looks absolutely obvious when I'm it looks direct, maybe not obvious, but direct when I'm doing both in parallel there. But that's much more subtle to prove in the general case. So that's one of the main results of our paper is that when you're doing game semantics, if you use a flattening, which is you forget all the intermediate step of the computation and only keep the final state of your computation, the complete configuration, then what you obtain something which is in the quantum relational model, and this is interpretation preserving, which means that if you take a term of the lambda calculus, look at its game semantics, flatten it, you obtain the same thing as just taking directly its relational semantics. So we prove that this flattening can be defined as a functor and is interpretation preserving. The other main result of our paper is to prove that those two models, quantum games and the quantum relational models, are fully abstract. For that, we take inspiration in the proof from Erhard, Tasson, and Pagani, which prove full abstraction for probabilistic PCF. So I will quickly try to explain you what is the scheme of the proof, what is the sketch of the proof. We are trying to prove full abstraction. So the first thing to remark is that the direct directions, the adequacy here, is already proven in previous paper for both models. So what is missing is the difficult direction. So we consider two terms that have different semantics. If they have different semantics, it means that there is a point of the web or a configuration of the game such that those two terms have different interpretation on this point. As such, for simplicity, I will assume that we are still in the probabilistic realm. This can generalize to matrices for quantum. But what we would want to do is to find a test term that will extract this probability. And by that, I mean that if you take the test term applied to M, to any term, it will converge with a probability which is exactly M of A. And if we have that, if you look at test TA of M, it will converge with probability MA. TA of N, it will converge with probability NA. This means that both are distinguishable because they converge with different probability. Hence, M and N are distinguishable because we have a test term to distinguish them. Unfortunately, you cannot do that that easily when you have replication because of the problem of uniformity of replicable function. But what you can do is that instead of extracting a single coefficient, you extract a power series of a lot of coefficients. You take a parameterized test term in a lot of formal parameters, and what you're looking at is that the probability of convergence here is a power series when one of the parameters is your probability. And from that, then we can conclude with one of the analysis theorem on power series to say that there is an instantiation of the formal parameter such that the test term distinguish. So as a conclusion, so we had, there was two models that were pre-existing to our work, which was already proven soon and adequate. What we proved in our paper is that the game semantics was fully abstract, that we have an interpretation preserving functors there, and we also deduced that the quantum relational model was also fully abstract. Thank you for your attention.
Questions from the audience?
Thank you, Mark. So there are the two models we have now for denotations of quantum programs. Is there a need for two models? I mean, can we get rid of one now?
So the thing is that essentially the quantum relational model will be easier to use if you're just looking at having a model for this calculus. However, in the game model, you already have some representation for your intermediate state, which will be very practical if you try to use to add effect to the language. Because now, for example, you could add without problem something that observes the evaluation order of your computation, whereas in the relational model that will be much more difficult.
More questions?
Thank you. So, nice work. A corollary of this work, is, if I understand well, is also that the quantum primitives does not increase the discriminative power of the context with respect to probabilistic languages, because we know that the model of quantum relation is a conservative extension of the model of real weighted relational semantics, which is fully abstract for probabilistic PCF. So that's nice. That means that having the quantum primitives does not increase the discriminating power. And now the other question is, what happens, do you have some intuition, what happens if we add memory references? So if we have a language like a quantum algol, do you have some intuition about that? Does your game model easily extend to memory references?
The way we, that's kind of a future work because our representation actually relies on concurrent game semantics. So if we start adding memory, we will have some non-determinism on top of it because we have memory and parallelism. However, that's something that it really look like we can add it, just that we didn't really go into that direction. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, time for one more question. There is a question on Slido, and just for the benefit of whoever asked, I think you chose the wrong Slido channel, but I will still ask the question, but I don't think it applies to this talk. So someone on Slido asked if these optimizations are implemented, and I believe that this belongs to the parallel track. So whoever asked it might want to paste it in the other channel to get an answer.
Yeah, I did not implement this.
Yeah, I suspected not, but just for the benefit of whoever asked. Okay, so thank you, Mark.